pretty safe.
I think that's just an oversight. We have Representative Crenshaw. All right, make sure that I can see him there. Quarter Black Garrett.
Hey.
Senor Crenshaw, are you there? Can you see and hear me, sir?
I can see and hear you. Can you see and hear me?
I cannot see you, but I can hear you. So first off, congratulations on your win.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, were
Good.
you out celebrating a whole bunch? Because I know you couldn't be with us this morning, or did you have were you puffy? Is that why you couldn't make it?
No, I was just writing. I was doing some writing and some light reading this morning.
Well, good for you. Some of us can't write. So let me ask you this as it goes. By the way, are you? I'm trying to think. I can never know if you hazel, brown, blue. What color? Are you guys?
Color what? Is my eye?
Yeah. Well, see, you said singular, but yes.
It's a hazel.
Hazel,
it's like a
okay.
greenish.
So it changes
greenish
depending.
kinda.
Like mine can sometimes be brown, or it can be a little more green. Yeah, I was just wondering. For some reason, I thought that you had blue eyes, but that's because of the red beard. So I assumed you were kind of, more of a ginger. You've been following this. No, I only see you look kind of ginger right now.
Do I?
Yeah. Yeah, you look like you could. If you put on a funny metal hat, you could be Cortez.
You're like the first person to ever say that. I have like no red at all. Maybe it's the lighting. I don't know.
Maybe it's the lighting. I have no idea. But we've wasted time here. Mr. Crenshaw, you've been following this. And I don't know if you saw, we had this kind of exclusive here of what was going on in Wayne County. We had some of these videos of people just bringing in coolers and red wagons of votes, completely unsecured, with no security checkpoints behind the glass polling station, which they then covered with Bristol boards. They just called the state of Michigan for Biden, at least on CNN. What's your actual read on what's going on right now? And do you think that it's a good thing that there will be some lawsuits? Or obviously, it seems like some of these things are going to go to the courts. It does seem as though there are a lot of discrepancies with the voting right now, and there are some things that just don't seem to be adding up.
Right, and these things have to be investigated. I think the unfortunate part is that we sort of expected this.
Right.
And I say it's unfortunate. I've been very outspoken against these sort of frivolous changes in rules and laws and deadlines and the way we do mail-in ballots and the way Democrats want to do ballot harvesting. This loosening of the rules has always been playing with fire. You have to trust the rules of the game. And something as contentious as an election where the transfer of power is at stake, you have to trust that the other side won fair and square. You might be really mad about it, but you have to trust it. And I think the Democrats have done such a horrible, evil disservice to this country by constantly messing with it. This isn't the first time, right? COVID just gave them the excuse. Mm-hmm. They already had the playbook. They've always wanted to do this stuff. I don't know why. I mean, I honestly, it is the worst thing you can do to a country that's already divided and at each other's throats. This is why I would get so heated if I was asked about the mail-in ballot versus the absentee ballot and that whole debate,
right,
for the last few months, because you're changing the rules of the game.
Right.
In the end, voting is a competition. It has to have structure around it, just like any game that you play, right? In the Super Bowl, you don't say, well, why don't we just see how well the teams do if we let them play another 5 minutes?
Right.
And let's just see.
Well, you know
right?
what? There's actually, that did happen. A friend of mine, so actually where my dad used to train, I don't know if you follow MMA, a guy named Guy Mezger. He was an early UFC champion. And he was called as a last-minute replacement, to use your analogy, but this actually happened in Pride fights. And I don't know if you know Pride fights in Japan. They were huge. 65 million people would watch Pride fights in Japan. There was a guy named Kazushi Sakuraba who was absolutely like a national idol in Japan, a pro wrestler, and he was also a fighter. This guy, Guy Mezger, was called in to fight Kazushi Sakuraba as a last-minute replacement, like on 2 days' notice. In Pride, they had one 10-minute round, and then they had a 5-minute round. So since he was a 2-day last-minute replacement, they said, sure, we'll take the fight, but we only do the one 10-minute round, okay? The commission, which wasn't very official in Japan, it was run by the Yakuza, they said, okay, absolutely. You coming in, we're just doing it at a catch weight, we'll just do one round. Guy Mezger beat Kazushi Sakuraba from pillar to post for 10 minutes, and then the referee came out and said, okay, 2 more round. And there was a brawl in the ring where his coach came in and said, no, you can't change that rule because this guy fought everything he had for 10 minutes because he wasn't prepared. So he gave everything he had. He doesn't have anything left for another 5 minutes. And they marked it down as a loss, and it was seen as one of the worst stains in the history of the sport. And also, a lot of Japanese fans and Americans lost trust in that sporting organization. So I think that's actually a great example because it actually happened. And I remember experiencing it. It paused the whole event. And you're seen as a very reasonable kind of Republican, conservative, one who obviously favors logic and reason over just hyperbole and rhetoric. But it sounds to me like you're saying the concerns, the fears are not ill-founded for conservatives in this country right now, that this election may not have been totally on the up and up.
Yeah, I mean, we just have to know, right? I mean, we see these anecdotes of potentially, wrongful behavior. We just have to know. Let's not run around like with our hair on fire. We always do this as a movement, and the left does it even worse. I mean, let's call it Americans. As Americans, we do this, right? We see something and we make sure that we have the most emotional reaction possible, and it makes it very easy for the other side to say, "Look at these crazy kooks. Look at these conspiracy theorists."
Right.
So let's just be deliberate. Let's be careful about it. Let's ask for those recounts. Use the courts to make your case. Just like use the systems in place as we have a right to do.
Yeah, and this is something. So we were broadcasting for 7 hours last night, or 7.5 hours. 8 million people tuned in. It's great. And we were like, well, I guess we're just going to have to go to bed because CNN and ABC, I think they all said, well, they're no longer going to be counting. We'll reconvene at 9 or 10 a.m. And we were all, I remember this clear as day. People can go watch that stream. 8 million people saw us saying, well, I guess they can't have people working shifts, right? We were just sort of mocking it because, like, why don't they just have people work a night shift? I took an hour nap on a hammock. I woke up and it had flipped in Wisconsin and Michigan.
Oh.
I mean, why? Why is that? How does that? This is a question I wonder. Since obviously you work in government, we were told they weren't going to be counting. Why were they going to stop counting? And why did they just restart at 5:30 in the morning?
Yeah, and how did it go that drastic? I mean, there might be an explanation, but we just need to know. We don't need to know.
We do not have one.
Which is again why the Trump campaign has every right to ask for that recount and an audit. And to use the courts accordingly. But that's the reality. I mean, they do this to themselves, right? These Democrat-run institutions and states, they do this to themselves. And we can guess at their motivations all day long. It's horrible. It really is. You should just have simple rules that we can all trust so that we don't have these conversations. We shouldn't have to have these conversations.
Well, because they were saying, it's very common for election results not to be determined on the day. And that's true to a certain extent because some ballots, maybe are counted a little bit later. But they were saying, this is normal. This is normal. There's nothing unprecedented. Can you think of any time, this is me, being a simpleton actually asking because I can't. Can you think of a time in history, something that would have set a precedent that says, all right, when election night happens, we only count votes until 4 a.m. We stop, and then we start up again at 4:45.
Right. It just seems suspicious.
Yes.
It just seems suspicious. And it just goes back to this. You've got to protect the institution. And, these people running this stuff, and they just happen to always be Democrats.
Right.
Have no respect for the sanctity of rules and institutions and what that does for the public trust, what that does for our democracy. I just find it laughable that they're always talking about Trump attacking our democracy. Right. They've never actually offered any real substantive complaint or example of how he does that. Yeah. I can offer many of how they do it. This is one. Right? You're directly undermining the rules. Right. Maybe they want to pack the Supreme Court. That directly undermines our democracy. Pack the Senate with more senators from D.C. Abolish the Electoral College. I can actually point to instances where they directly attack the democracy.
Right.
So these arguments fall.
It's attacking the institutions versus attacking the accuracy of the process. Donald Trump has attacked. Hey, hold on one second. Quarter Black Guy, can you mute your microphone? He's eating Chick-fil-A. I can hear the arterial sclerosis, for crying out loud.
Chicken.
So listen, he's eating chicken. We've been broadcasting since yesterday, 8 o'clock Eastern, nonstop. So I apologize, Mr. Crenshaw. You deserve better, but this is what you get. It is remarkable. We talked about this. Donald Trump attacks the process. He's going, hold on a second. You have people who've now been given Sharpies to fill out these ballots where people are not supposed to have Sharpies. I don't know if he's necessarily brought up that. He says, hold on a second. Now you're all of a sudden allowing these ballots to be counted even if they're postmarked past election. No, hold on a second. He's not saying, hey, we shouldn't have the Electoral College. I don't trust the American electoral system. He's saying the way you guys are doing it uniquely this go around is a problem. The Democrats want to do away with the Electoral College. The left, they're the ones who actually want to do away with the process and how we vote before, voting in person with exceptions for mail-in voting. And same thing, you know what, Mr. Crenshaw, I think you're this way too, but I think something people miss about President Trump is I noticed he's never attacked Biden voters. He's attacked Biden. He's attacked the media, and people hate him for it. But even his comment where he said, not neo-Nazis and white supremacists who should be condemned totally, he said you had people who wanted to tear those statues down, and you had people who wanted to keep them up, and there were fine people on both sides. He does believe that there are people who vote against him who are decent, who have good intentions, whereas Joe Biden calls Trump voters ugly. We have deplorables. That's something that I think is missed. There doesn't seem to be this disdain for the Biden voter. He does seem to have a genuine disdain for the elites in power. And I think that's a big difference between the current Democrats and even the most sort of Trumpian Republicans.
Yeah. Well, there's this sense of contempt. We always say this, like Democrats or Republicans think Democrats are wrong, but Democrats think Republicans are evil.
Right.
And I think the deeper underlying reason is if you oversimplify to the maximum extent what it means for Republicans to be in control and Democrats to be in control, you could argue that it means this. If Republicans are in control, our basic message is everybody leave each other the hell alone.
Right.
Okay. The Democrats have a fundamentally different message, right? They want more control. They want to implement their social justice, their benevolent programs that they think are going to fix your life, whether you know it or not, or whether you want it or not.
Right.
And they like this sense of control. They believe you should be a different way. It upsets them to an enormous extent when you disagree with that. Yeah. And this builds that contempt, right? Like, so it's this stems not just from partisanship, but from our disposition, psychologically speaking, and what we want from government and what we want from society.
Yeah.
We have to understand sometimes, we have to take a step back and just understand that we are wired totally differently. As a conservative and a liberal, we're just wired differently. We come at this from totally different angles. Understanding that is a good first step to, I think, making it through this political life.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think that generally conservatives have contempt for authority, ill-gotten authority, and I think that generally liberals have contempt for people who don't fall in line with the collective. I don't have contempt for someone who's voting for Biden because he's bought what I think are intellectual falsehoods. I do have contempt for the person spreading them. I do have contempt for the person saying, you won't pay any more in taxes. And I go, well, I know that's not true. And I run a business and I know that's not true. I don't have contempt for the person who doesn't know it. Let me ask you this, because I know you're busy and everyone is busy, but obviously since now you're a victor, that you can breathe a sigh of relief. Not that it was really going to be a problem for you. How do you see this ending up? Do you see, first off, if you have a gun to your head, I'm not threatening a sitting representative, I'm just saying in a hypothetical scenario, gun to your head, who do you think wins it, Joe Biden or Donald Trump? And in either scenario, what do you think the follow-up is with the courts? For example, if Joe Biden is called to win, do you think that they could have a fight in the courts and then it could end up going to Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not good at this kind of punditry. I don't find a lot of utility.
Good for you. We're playing a game here, Dan.
I just don't know. I can just be hopeful, and I'm going to give them good vibes. I think Pennsylvania seems like it's got to be for Trump, and I am watching the polls continue to come in for Arizona, and then maybe you don't need Wisconsin and Michigan, right? Maybe that's the path. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just hopeful. I do want to give a shout out to Texans for voting against tyranny and socialism in a very profound way.
Yeah.
Texas is not turning blue.
It was still way too close.
It was. I mean, we thought it was going to be a lot closer. So, Cornyn won pretty handedly. We didn't lose the state house. I think on net we didn't lose a single seat. Mm-hmm. We didn't lose a single House seat. Even those really, really close ones that we thought we'd lose that previous members had won by a fraction, we won those by more. We didn't flip any, but I think next time we probably could.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's for Texas. I think it's a good day. I mean, there was a serious stoppage point. Democrats are really going to have to reconsider wasting hundreds of millions of dollars. You have to understand too, like everybody was outspent in Texas.
Right.
I'm one of the few who was not outspent, and everybody else was though. So
where'd you get those? Where'd you get those Big Daddy Warbucks there, Mr. Crenshaw? Get them from the secret Bilderberg meetings.
People, like it does. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know.
little Bohemian Grove peeing on Redwood action, and then all of a sudden someone passes you a $100 bill. Uncle Samson the wiser. I know your game. No, I think you ran a good campaign. I do think it was too close for comfort, though, Texas. I said Ohio's not a swing state these last few elections, and I said I would be more surprised if Ohio went blue than Texas. And I didn't think that either were going to go blue. But I would like to see that. What I would like to see is maybe a bit more of an initiative in Texas to educate a lot of the California transplants, because I know that there's a little bit of animosity, like don't bring your policies here. But maybe there could be more of an effort from people like you and people in positions of power in Texas to let Californians know, hey, this is why you left that. This is why Texas is better. This is why your company is here. This is how we preserve it, rather than just take your pot and your Prius back to California.
I feel like somebody should do a video where we take California policies, explain those, and then explain the outcomes that come from those policies, and then post it on Instagram to their 2 million followers.
Oh, a little bit of self-congratulations there. Well, listen, you're taking a victory. You're taking a victory lap, and I don't blame you. But I am glad to see you win. And I do hope that, like you said, I do hope that gap widens a little bit more, and Texas becomes more of the Texas that we know it to be. It was good, but I do think it could be a little
unquestionable would be nice. I don't think it's Californians changing it. That is a bit of a myth, in my opinion. I think your typical super liberal Californian isn't thinking, I want to go to Texas. I think they think, I want to go to Colorado, maybe Arizona. Yeah. I think your typical more conservative California comes to Texas. So I think it's our youth, starting to vote. As young people just are, from a dispositional standpoint, tend to vote Democrat. I think that's really what our obstacle is in Texas.
Representative Crenshaw, Trump's campaign is speaking right now, so I do have to go to that. Really quickly, where's the best place for people to find you and your podcast? Well, I know, but you're important, but right now we have to hear what they're saying. I'm assuming there's going to be fireworks.
Appreciate it. Hey, podcast is Hold These Truths. Thanks for the shout out.
Hold These Truths. Absolutely. And of course, Instagram, you make some funny videos. You actually create some campaign ads that don't make me go, I got to watch through my fingers. So I appreciate that about you. I hope we have more of you out there. We need you. Thank you so much, Representative Crenshaw. We'll talk with you soon, brother.
Good to see you.